So, first and foremost, let me offer again an apology to all of those that came yesterday for my interview with Josie from MobTube Chronicles. The blame starts and it ends with me. I made a scheduling mistake, which was a big scheduling mistake. There's a 13-hour time difference between her time zone in America and my time zone here in Asia. So right now, where it's Friday night, afternoon, Friday in America, it is Saturday morning here in Asia. Um, Again, I apologize. I apologize to Josie. She graciously did accept my apology, and I'm hoping that we can at some point reschedule. And I have feedback. All right, here we go. So, sorry for the feedback. Anyway, there are some things that happened after the result of that I would like to talk about. So, with that being said, I'm gonna get started.
Jesus. Welcome.
Just hear my heart for a second, man. I wanna reach the lost, but if the lost think they got the cross and everybody got Christ, then I guess nobody is lost.
Welcome.
Yo, if everybody following Jesus, man, then I guess we all saved. Hey, but this can't be true, man. When everybody's screaming Jesus, hold it down. Yo, we know who we are. Yes, we know where we live. True. Nowadays, everybody claim to be God's kids. It's so a shame because they don't really know who God is. But yet they claim they fame came from what God did. Everybody's riding the Jesus bandwagon, but they like this loose fit like me with my pants sagging. I ain't trying to get rich or I would do secular rap. I spit Jesus for the fact that he's better than that. So if the money stopped coming and the mic went out, would you still rep Christ if your lights went out? Furthermore, if they started with us and they never finished the race, then were they ever really visited by Jesus' great first John? That's the question that I propose. It's odd to see you claim God smoking Optimo. My greatest weapon is death, dog, so y'all can't hurt me. Jesus wasn't afraid of a little controversy. Listen,
Matthew 10:34. Jesus' own words. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Jesus. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be those of his own household. Christianity is an extremely disruptive force in the world. Welcome.
when everybody's screaming Jesus, hold it down.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Okay, I can't do the radio hosty kind of voice. I was trying to, it's not working. Hey, Violet, hi, sis. Teresa, hello, sis. So I'm going to talk about, it's a little embarrassing. Yesterday, I woke up. I had just finished working on a little intro video clip, and I was talking with my significant other and not thinking anything about anything. Oh, nice try. Yeah, it was a nice try, wasn't it? I've got my my good morning AM podcast voice on. Anyway, I get a message saying, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm in my house. What are you talking about?" It's like, "No, we're waiting for you." I'm like, "Nobody's outside my house." And I was like, "No, you're live streaming." Me, I'm thinking, "Hey, it's not till tomorrow. you guys are early. And then I checked and saw that I had put in the wrong date. When I was scheduling this with Josie, I was trying to keep reminding myself because I'm still adjusting to time here in Southeast Asia and my time in America. I'm from Philadelphia, so I know that time. And for me to do a live stream, it's always going to be like 13 hours behind the East Coast of America. So, in working this out with Josie, I said, hey, it'll be Friday for you. And that's what I put in my live stream calendar instead of Saturday for me. So, when I actually clicked on it and saw all of the comments and people in the chat, my mind just kind of fried. I could hear it sizzle like, you screwed up big time, buddy. And it was, oh, snapola. So, you know, first thing I did before I even addressed the people in the chat room, I emailed Josie and let her know, like, I'm really sorry. I screwed up. I hope, you'll forgive me, give me another opportunity to have you on my channel. And she didn't reply right away, so I kind of got nervous, like, uh-oh, one and done. I'm like my sports teams in the playoffs. You get that one, and after that, it's over. But she graciously, accepted my apology. And, she says she couldn't do it today. She had a scheduling conflict, which I understand because we talked about this well in advance, and she had booked the time that I sent, and I wasn't there. So that being said, I hope to reschedule her soon. And I also want to say hello to the many new subscribers I've gotten and thank them. I was humbled by the increase in subscriber count. I never expected anything like that, and especially such a short period of time. It was a very heartwarming experience, to say the least. Thank you. But it's not me. It's you guys. You guys make this happen. You guys with your clicks and your all right. That's a bad acceptance speech. No, seriously though, thank everybody. Thank you all. It's really something I didn't expect. I had a previous channel 2 years ago, and it had relatively small subscriber count. I've never gone into YouTube expecting to get enough subscribers to be monetized or anything like that. Especially because I don't necessarily look to make money off of just talking about things I feel passionately about. But I do appreciate those that share a common thread in the things that I discuss, things that they may agree with or disagree with. You're always able to, offer a differing opinion, just as long as it's respectful. Okay, hold on. You know what I need to listen to? Okay, we'll get you your tutu fixes. So don't worry. I already know, so it'll be there. Quality over quantity. Yeah, that's exactly right. Numbers without true quality. I mean, we've known for years some people buy subs, and all of a sudden, when Social Blade came out, people were exposed for padding their subscriber count. And see, I don't do things that aren't authentic, because the truth will come to light, and when it comes to light, you're considered a fraud. And in my culture, and in growing up, your word was your bond. And once your word was no good, you were no good. It was just like getting credit. If you screw up on a credit card and you don't pay that credit card off, it goes out on a credit report. And so when people say, hey, you want a credit card? And you say, yeah, I'm great. And then, they run your credit application and they see all of these, bad credit reports. They're not going to give it to you. You lied. You're not worthy. You don't pay. You don't honor your word, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Um Also, this was a very, very crazy week for me, to say the least. Um, then you change your name. I know people that did that. I used to be a financial counselor for many years, and there was nothing more awkward than a person coming in and we ran their credit report and finding out like their mother or their sister or their uncle had taken their identity to obtain credit. It's very awkward. I don't know how else to describe that awkwardness. Um, of course, I'll always be Christ conflict. Even if people change or hack my channel and have it shut down, like someone did from the great nation of Canada, it's not going to stop me from being who I am. Um, God bless me. I don't know how else to say it. I could have been dead a long time ago. I could be in prison, serving life, but God protected me from that. And my name is a representation of my strongest belief on planet Earth and the greatest love I have on planet Earth, which is Christ. And conflict is just my sociological theory, which was my second favorite passion. Why do you think we have so many kids? They all have bad credit. Time to have another baby. Hello, CC. I'm late and don't give a F. Well, you never do, Jazz, so that's nothing new, but I'm glad you're here. Always wonderful to have you on. Just for you, I'll say langer, 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 langer. Hopefully, you're laughing right now. By the way, I keep telling you, when you go to the dispensary, you have to get wedding cake. Okay, even if you don't want to smoke it for me, because marijuana is not legal here yet, and I have to substitute with CBD, which just is not the same thing. It's just it's just not. I don't get it. But before I forget, I went on. Well, Teresa had told me about the mob community, which led me to find MobTube Chronicles. But there were two channels I actually visited during this past week. One I found quite disturbing, and the other one I sat in. Well, I only planned on being there to listen for about maybe 5 minutes or so, and wound up sitting and chatting for about an hour and a half. So the first one I saw was Chicago Muscle, and I didn't really know anything about him, but from the few minutes that I listened to, it was the nicest word I could say was disturbing. I don't know how else to put it. It seemed to be a man on a rant, and everything he said was very homoerotic. He just kept talking about another man wanting to fillet him, and like he kept referencing that, and but not in. I mean, if he's yeah, I really don't care. It's not something that I judge anybody on. Your sexual preference is between you, your partner, and God. And God loves homosexuals as much as he loves heterosexuals, and he loves bisexuals as much as he loves heterosexuals and homosexuals. God doesn't discriminate his love. Like it's ever flowing. So if God isn't going to condemn you for it, it's not for me to say anything else about it. We all have an individual relationship with God. But this did not seem like it was a man who how should I say it was an angry rant, but I don't know. Me being a sociologist and I've been dealing in behavioral health since 1993, and it just kept the way it was being said. It sounded more like he wanted it to happen. Like if it did happen, he sounded like an ex-boyfriend. Let me put it that way. That's what it sounded like. If you break up with a girlfriend and you're hurt by it, so you start yelling, you missed this. I used to give it to you good. That guy's not good. Like that's what it sounded like. But he was talking about another man, but not in a way like I don't think he didn't appear to be openly gay. I don't know if he is gay. I'm not going to say he is gay. I don't know. But the reason I found it disturbing was because you could feel the hatred. And there's nothing healthy about hatred. There's nothing healthy to hate anything at all. The only thing we're supposed to hate are the things that God hates. And most of us, usually at some point in time, have done the things that God hates. And we ourselves are doing these things without hating it ourselves. So I'm not going to sit here and, make assumptions about Chicago muscle, but it was disturbing to the point where it started affecting my condition. I have chronic severe post-traumatic stress disorder, and his laugh is creepy. Maybe if I heard him laugh, it would have been better. I didn't hear this guy laugh. It was just anger, and he kind of sounded like Hulk Hogan, but not like an elderly Hulk Hogan, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like I was just expecting him to say brother, but it was just hate. I mean, that is a definite assumption that there was hate in there, But the other live stream that I listened to was a complete 180 from this, and that was what's his name? Stand Up Guy 69, and listening to him, I mean, it was the first time in a very long time I listened to a live stream that was intelligent, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It was relatable, even in topics I had no experience in. I felt like a kid in a barbershop listening to the old head barbers talking about their life experiences, or you listening to your dad talk about, with his war buddies, the different things they had been through. It was good. They talked about drug addiction and uh Suge, I think it was. You know, he was he was spot on, in the things that he was saying. And they were talking about stolen valor, which, I'm a fourth generation military vet, so that does kind of affect me, in some manner. Yeah, I think stand up guy is a great guy. He's in his 70s. Yeah, okay. So yeah, he's probably around the age my parents would have been. Well, my dad would have been like late 70s or no, my dad would have been late 70s or early 80s. And he died when I was 6. But my mom would have been 75 last year. So yeah, he's born around that time. But when he started pulling up the old photos of his work in, the entertainment industry, I'm a history guy, so I love that stuff. And his picture with Betty Davis, and I think he was a cameraman on Saturday Night Fever, and then he showed a picture from The Exorcist, and then he was telling these stories about, Betty Davis calling his mother, and Frank Sinatra, and his mother didn't really like Frank Sinatra, and he was talking about like Sammy Davis Jr. And I laughed when he talked about how small Sammy Davis Jr. was. you know, it was entertaining. Like I really enjoyed it because he talked about a few things, but he didn't go on a hate fueled rant. There wasn't that, like, it wasn't targeting. It wasn't vendetta based, I guess is what I'm saying. And one of the reasons why, even after my channel got shut down, I started a new channel in 2022. And what ended up happening was, oh, you can hear her? Yeah, there's a Shih Tzu outside that comes past the house every morning that Cayenne wants to totally maul and destroy. So we have to keep her in the house when we, this time of day, because if she ever gets a hold of that Shih Tzu, it's over. And I don't want to clean up the mess. So we're going to keep it there. But back to Stand Up Guy 69. Like I said, I was only planning on being in there for a couple of minutes. Like, yeah, I'll just listen to this guy real quick, see what's doing. But I kind of got roped in, and his chat, community was funny. We were in the chat. We were talking about, someone in there was asking for advice on, yeah, how to get to sleep, and they were naming the things that they were taking. So I was chiming in. Did you try melatonin? Use indica weed instead of sativa weed, because indica is a sedative weed and sativa is a stimulant weed. It was, I guess I could say, it felt like a community. When I first started going into YouTube communities and the live streams and the chats, that's what it was like. You meet different people while the host is talking, and you kind of laugh at what, is being discussed, or you're laughing at the chat. It's almost like you're at a party, or you're at, some event, and there's a speaker that's, talking, and they're good, and you're listening to that, but you can also kind of intermingle and talk with other people. And first getting into YouTube seriously, like late 2020, early 2021, when everybody was in a state of isolation, it was good to listen to. It felt like, I had people that I could communicate with. And then it just kind of, I guess for lack of a better word, it just went south. And then you start seeing rivalries, and you start seeing people spreading, bottom line, they were spreading hate. And I'm not going to excuse myself. I fell into it. You start talking to a certain group of people every day, hours at a time, on a regular basis. You feel a connection. You feel, you know, almost like family, a sense of loyalty. So it's like an attack against you is an attack against me. And if anybody comes after me, well, I'm definitely going after you. Not to want to really quote Donald Trump, but that was the sentiment. And as a result, I got into a number of, they weren't major feuds, but I did engage in the back and forth and the bickering and the name calling and the insults. And there were a couple of times that I took it too far. There's no other way to say it. I mean, I could give this long-winded story about it, but the bottom line was, in hindsight, I played a role in some of those situations where I did really hurt people emotionally, and that's not okay. It's just not okay. You know, there's one thing when you're trading back and forth like in a boxing match, and you're beating the crap out of a guy, but if that fighter says, takes a knee or turns his back, you're supposed to stop. And for me, I didn't. Like, my ego, I think, was showing itself in those moments. But that was a different time. I mean, I've come to Asia, here. My whole coming to Asia and leaving America was faith based. It was based on my faith in Christ. Um, I just turned everything over and said, I'll just follow you now. What I'm doing is not working for me. I was in a very miserable state. And it wasn't easy when I came here. I'm adjusting. I'm in a new country. The first place I lived at, people barely spoke any English. I had a personal assistant that the best way to describe her was if you saw the movie Misery, she was Kathy Bates and I was James Caan. And that's pretty much what it felt like. But things, I kept my faith, got into my Bible, and things have turned around. I'm in a different place now in South Asia, southern Philippines, and the island of Mindanao, which is starting to become populated with expats, expatriates as they're called, which the Philippines call foreigners. But the northern and central regions of the Philippines are overpopulated with expats and foreigners. Here, it's more indigenous, it's more laid back. So it's been nice. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to look at a lot to buy and build a house. I have a good woman for the second time in my life, but honestly, you could consider it the first time in my life. And, she takes good care of me. Like I said, I have a really bad condition of post traumatic stress disorder. I have a service dog, which is Cayenne. You might have heard her barking. But one of the things that I consciously work towards in building this channel is to not engage in the drama, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and act like, watching two people go at it doesn't entertain me because it does. It shouldn't, but there's a part of me like, oh, wow, they're arguing. Let's hear what they're arguing about. It does. I'm not going to pretend like, I completely am this righteous person. I try to live my life according to the word of God, but I know I'm not Christ. That was the only perfect human being ever to walk the face of the earth. So for me, I try to be as consistent as the Bible, since I know I can never be perfect like Jesus Christ was. But I wasn't helpful to CC. I would see him get mad and I would fuel the fire by acting, motion censoring, which wasn't healthy for him. It was out of I love you, Teresa, but listen, ultimately, I could have said no. But, I don't want you to feel like you were responsible for my behavior because you aren't. You and me had a fight. You and me have argued, but the adults in us and the love we have for each other was like, okay, we're being stupid. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry too. And then, like, I can see that. What I don't understand is people in these communities that, for lack of a better description, were probably punks in real life, become these keyboard warriors and they go out and dox and swat and just lie. Like, that is a hate filled situation. There is nothing healthy about hate. There is nothing good in hatred. And one of the things that I did want to talk to Josie about was the fact that she's catching a lot of hate. And if you don't like something a person's saying, and I'm speaking about the YouTube community, if you don't like a person's channel, if you don't like how a person treats other people on their channel, if you don't like a certain person that's always in the chat rooms, you don't have to go. Like, you don't have to be there. If you like the channel, but there's people in the chat that you don't like, you can block them so you don't even see what they're saying. If you don't like the person's channel, don't watch it. There were many people I got into it with whose channels I never watched. And I know that might sound strange, but it was basically, that was a situation. Like, I never took drama to another person's channel. My problem was I welcomed the drama onto my own channel. And one of the things that I didn't want to have on this channel. I wanted this to be a place where people could just come and chill out. We can laugh at some videos. We can talk about old songs or, a normal community. We can talk about issues, but have intelligent conversations. If you have an opinion about something, be able to articulate it. One thing that does bother me is if a person has a strong opinion about something, and when you ask them to explain why they feel that way, they can't. Like, how do you feel this strongly about something and you can't even articulate why you feel that way? So if somebody asks me why I feel so strongly about being a Christian and a follower of Christ, I could talk for hours about that. I can explain why I feel this way. I can explain why I didn't always feel this way, because I I have that introspection. Like, I want to understand things, but so many people are just full of that hatred that they're enjoying the hate. So they don't care what the hate is about. And the thing about hatred is that it's an engulfing, destructive emotion. And when hatred runs out of things to attack, it will cannibalize. And that's why you see YouTubers that were both mutually disgusting and they were once allies, but when they had nothing else to go against, they went against each other. So all of a sudden, two people that you thought were inseparable forever, now they're bitter enemies. And people are like, well, I didn't like that guy and I didn't like that guy either. And now they're arguing with each other and they're feuding with each other because they don't have anything else to hate. See, when you love, that's an endless thing. Like, when you share love, you spread love. That goes out. Hey, hey, Wind Whispers. How are you, dear? Yeah, was worried about you. No, I'm kidding. Well, no, I mean, I'm glad. Hope everything's okay. I don't mean I don't care about you. I was just saying hello to my dear friend. So the other thing, real quick, that stolen valor thing, and I strongly believe what I'm about to say in regards to stolen valor. Anybody that pretends to be something that they're not does not feel love, period. You can't feel good about yourself and love yourself if you have to pretend to be someone or something that you're not. My great grandfather served in World War II. My grandfather served in Vietnam 3 tours and the entire Korean War. He was actually an airborne ranger. My father was a Marine. He served in Vietnam. My uncle was in the Air Force. He served in Vietnam. And me, I had the luxury of being Desert Storm, which was kind of a war. No, I look at it as a blessing because had I been born 10 years later, I would have been in Iraqi freedom, and that was a full on, war. And I remembered when I was a financial counselor, we worked with a lot of retired disabled military veterans, and these were people, men and women, that they looked normal like me and went to college, did all kinds of things, but they had severe post-traumatic stress disorder, which at the time I knew I had, but I wasn't aware that post-traumatic stress disorder can get worse. I thought it was almost like something like when you get it, depending on what level you get it at, you would that's where it would stay. So if you witness severe trauma and you had severe PTSD, if you had moderate PTSD, it would just stay there. That was my ignorance. But my condition continued to get worse. And by 2019, I was placed on medical leave from a job, which I loved to death. And by 2020, it was a done deal. Like I couldn't function anymore. And my condition actually didn't start when I joined the service. That was actually one of the better times of my life, but it started when I was 8 years old. I was a victim of sexual abuse and physical abuse, and both my parents died by the time I was 15. I dropped out of the seventh grade because my mother was battling cancer, and I went through a lot. I mean, I've been homeless. I know what it's like not to eat for days at a time. No electricity, no heat in the wintertime. Having to ask for money, ask for food. I've seen my mother, she sacrificed her pride to ask people for food when we had nothing to eat. And, when I get triggered, those defensive coping mechanisms kick in to where, like, if I get a full on PTSD trigger, I won't eat for maybe up to 3 days. Sleep is, I might get 45 minutes to an hour a night. You get this sense of hypervigilance where all your senses are raised because you're in protective mode. And part of post-traumatic stress disorder is you're always waiting for that other shoe to drop so you can't be caught off guard. Another concept of post-traumatic stress disorder is that feeling of helplessness, like this trauma is happening and you can't do anything to stop it. And that's, causes a lot of stress, you know. And I reached the point, in my career, I spent my entire career, working with at-risk populations, at-risk youth, the elderly population, vulnerable populations, victims of abuse, whether adult or young. And so with that, I know all of this, but it's incredible to hear it again. Oh, thank you, dear. The reason I'm in the Philippines now is because I plan on building a school for Christ and a church. And that is to take the fruits of knowledge that God blessed me to gain while I was in America and use it here where it's much needed. And I met, uh, I don't actually know what his title is, but he oversees the affairs of the indigenous people of the Philippines. And when I told him my concept of a school, he loved the idea. Um, Not surprisingly, because he's also a sociologist and he was also a teacher, and he understands the importance of, identity and education and establishing that sense of pride. So I'm probably going to be working with him. He lives in the province I live in has a lot of small towns, and where he's at, they have a good population of indigenous people. And if you see the indigenous people of the Philippines, you honestly wouldn't, like, they have such similarities to indigenous tribes of America and the indigenous tribes of Africa. Like when you see the 7 indigenous tribes of the Philippines, it's amazing the similarities that they all share. Even the Aboriginal indigenous people of Australia, you can see the similarities. Even their dress is like that of native tribes in America and native tribes of Africa, and their jewelry. It's ridiculously similar, which, you know, has me starting to theorize that before the Europeans came through Asia, the Africans did first. And that's just my theory. I've actually been with you via phone while you went through it. It was so scary. Oh, yeah, that's right. When I was in Los Angeles, actually, I had a massive anxiety attack. And for some reason, it was just a voice in my head said, "Call Teresa." It- that was God looking out. There were other people. I had cousins in Los Angeles that I had just seen like the day before, and it was no, call her. And the girlfriend I had at my time, and at that time, this was like 2 years ago, was on the phone with me. Like she was FaceTiming me, but I called Teresa, and Teresa, it was late at night for her, like pre-dawn, and she got up and she read Psalm 118 for me, and that brought me out of my anxiety attack. I actually fell asleep while she was reading Psalm 119. Like I was just in a ball of. It was 3 a.m. for you. Yeah, it was 6 a.m. for me. I was in Los Angeles. That's right. Which, yeah, that was amazing. And it's not like Teresa doesn't do anything during the course of a day. So, for her to like that was love and kindness and care. See, those are things that, you know, we don't do enough of in the community. I met my sister, Violet Witch, not because she has a channel, but I met her on another channel in chat, Irish Jazz. I met her in another channel in the chat. Like real bonds and friendships and family can be made in the community, but it's not being used that way right now. This wasn't what I remember YouTube being when I came in 2021, or I never would have got into it. And Irish Jazz, you've been in the YouTube communities since what, 2015? So you've definitely seen how it's changed. And we're not, I don't want to say we're not, but I don't know. It's more people concerned about getting clicks and views by appealing to people that just want to hate. And that's not healthy. I got to look at a person if everything they're doing is about hate, and especially when they target one person. What do you have going on in your life? Like, why is that all you're talking about? Like, getting back to Stand Up Guy 69. Yeah, he talked about Chicago Muscle, but that wasn't the focal point of his live stream. That was like a mention. It was like, by the way. And then after he said what he had to say, it was back to, him talking about other things. I mean, that conversation, and he had been on for hours before I even got on there, and his viewers never dipped below 100. So he must have been saying things. You can't listen to a person spew hate for 4 hours, and like you're going to get tired of it after a while. But that just speaks to the, I guess, diversity of the topics he was talking about. And he's an older guy, he's in his 70s. So there's a lot of experiences in his life that he can share, and there's a lot of wisdom that he clearly gained from it. And I appreciate that. And I don't want to sit here and, just keep praising Stand Up Guy 69. But in my last live stream, I said I was looking for new communities, and I saw what I subscribed to, because this is something I could watch on a regular basis. And then I saw something that I thought was rather disturbing. Your story is different. You thought you were going to be an A because of comments in chat. um I think you're talking about me, Wind Whispers. So to be clear, yeah, there was some ego when I first started chatting in the community. I think I first got into the 90-day slash anti Katie Joy community, and it was kind of like, I got a couple of one-liners here I'm gonna throw out there. But it then evolved, because from there I went on Little Red's channel, and that became like a nightly thing, and we talked about all kind of stuff. But then when that ended, I felt like I was channel hopping, and I got something to say, so let me, and I didn't want to be that person. And that was why I had started a channel, so I can say what I want to say and not have to worry about if I'm dominating somebody else's live stream. I'll just have my own. And it kind of grew. But I also think that Don't get me wrong. There's a wealth of good people that I met, and when whispers, you're not the first person. Wait, what's going on? Irish Jazz, where are you going? Wait, why is she getting upset? Irish Jazz, I mentioned you. I said you had been in the YouTube community since 2015. Why are you getting like that? I didn't forget you. How could I forget you? Okay, here hey just Beetle, how are you? Thanks for coming. I'm sorry. Dropping out of the bushes to say hello and my avatars. Oh, hi just Beetle. Yeah, see, these are the things that if you just focus in on, like the way me and Teresa actually started communicating was she was on another channel and said something that everybody like, ah! I didn't take it personally. You know, like I said, I don't judge people. You have to show me the person that you are. And Teresa shown me the person that she is. So we can have disagreements and we may not always agree on things and we may argue, but I know who she is. So that means there's 98% wonderful Teresa, and then her temper being that, you have a hair trigger temper, but Teresa's temper is set like on a motion sensor. So that's that 2%. And then, sometimes you gotta watch out for it and you duck and you're like in the Matrix where you're dodging bullets. But overall, you know, the friendship is worth the motion sensor temper, which honestly, over the past couple of years, has not been bad. I don't know how else to say it. Irish Jazz, yeah, please don't leave, Jazz. Why are you being that way, Jazz? What are you doing? Don't be a langer. Mm, don't be a langer. See that Irish Jazz? See, now I'm going to put up this video I said I wasn't going to put up. No, it's not about Irish Jazz, but this was what I was working on yesterday, so I'm gonna share it right now, and we can talk about it in a second. So watch this.
Okay, and I need to make sure you're okay. I need to make sure that you're safe, and I've got to make sure that the kids are safe. So we're just trying to help you and make sure everything's okay. Okay, because this is your demeanor. Like I told you earlier, did you drink something while you were here at school?
Not while I was at school.
You want to tell me the truth? How much you had to drink?
I drank last night.
There's no way you drank last night.
Well, I did drink last night.
You blew 2 times the legal limit.
I did?
Yeah. You blew like a .24.
I don't know what that means.
Legal limit's .08.
Okay.
You want my honest opinion? Mm-hmm. I think she's probably a functioning alcoholic.
Do you live here in town?
I live in Stillwater.
Do you have anybody that's there that could come pick you up? Do you know your husband's number? If I call him?
I don't want you to call him.
Well, I can't let you leave. If you leave, you're going to get arrested.
Yeah, I'm going to arrest you for DUI.
Am I going to get fired?
Honestly, yes. Or you can resign. You're under the influence at school with kids. That cannot happen.
I smell liquor on my breath. You're drunk.
Can it not just be that it's in my blood system and that's why it's...
Unless you were drank a shit ton
Well,
at like 8 o'clock this morning, I don't know how you could still be that high.
I did drink a lot last night.
How much did you drink?
I don't... Too much.
What do you drink?
Wine.
So how many bottles of wine did you drink?
We had the box.
Juice boxes. Huh?
You think all box are on?
Half a box. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time.
So who do you go home to? Your husband?
Mhm.
So why can't we call your husband?
Julian!
So maybe that's why she didn't want them to call her husband. Aren't they supposed to offer help before terminating them? I think that's a situation, and I'm not 100% sure. She was new to that position. This happened in the state of Oklahoma. And what they were actually having to sit down and talking to her, I think it just for the whole video was about almost 40 minutes. I had to trim a lot of that down, which is what I was doing Thursday. But she was in denial. Like the whole video, they're asking her first, had she been honest and said she had a problem, I think it would have been different. But even when they gave her the breathalyzer test, because she was saying she hadn't had anything to drink, like they found a cup of that had wine in it in her classroom. And the issue was that they noticed that after the lunch break, her speech had become slurred and she was just kind of, visibly intoxicated. And that's why they had pulled her in. They had called the police officer to, they asked her, they didn't force her to, but they told her, would you be willing to take a breathalyzer test, which she consented to. And she was like almost 3 times the legal limit to drive. So they did talk to her at first. That's why I kept the part in where the lady administrator who was off camera was saying that listen, we care about you, we're concerned about you. They were extending it, but if she's going to keep denying it, because at first she said she hadn't had anything to drink, and then she said she had taken anti-anxiety medication. She couldn't remember the name of it. They said, do you have the bottle? And she said, no, I just put it in my pocket and came to school. And she wasn't being forthcoming. And one of the things about alcoholism, they call it disease of denial. And yeah, see, deny, deny, deny. You're right. Yeah, my uncle that was in the Air Force, and he had a rough life too. My grandfather being a career action junkie was always off fighting some type of war. My grandmother was a nurse, and so my uncle was left in the care of other people a lot, and he went through abuse, not sexual abuse, but physical abuse. And he would tell us the stories. He got sent to Vietnam completely by accident, and that's an interesting story in itself. But he was a functional alcoholic. I'll put it to you this way: I had no problem getting in a car with my uncle driving when I knew he had been drinking. I mean, I could go to sleep, no seatbelt on, feet hanging out the window, and he could drive like from one end of the city to the other. I wouldn't care. If he was sober, I'd walk first. Like him as a sober driver, it was not good. That was scary. But him intoxicated, no issues. Just ride right on through. Hey. But the problem is, especially for a lot of people, if you don't maintain that same level of high, you start looking for something stronger. Your body builds up a tolerance to it. Now, fortunately, my uncle in his older age, because he actually became a drug addict too, but he found religion and he was able to wean off of it. So I think the only thing he continued to do, which most people do, and I have to do now because there's no marijuana in this country, is smoke cigarettes. That was the only thing he kept doing. But, when you become addicted to those substances, it's because, I mean, for me, I know the worst thing I ever got addicted to were cigarettes. But I remembered in 2019, because my doctor actually in 2018 told me you need to get medical marijuana. He was like, you either get medical marijuana or you're going to be popping a whole bunch of big pharma drugs because you're getting worse. And I started smoking the marijuana, and I remembered the first time I smoked marijuana. Now, mind you, the first time I smoked marijuana, like legitimately, I think I did it like maybe 5 times in my life before that, but I was 46 the first time I really engaged in using marijuana. And I remembered that first time, it felt like my anxiety had been placed in handcuffs and had been strapped to a chair and had a big gag ball put in its mouth. Because I knew it was still there, but I actually felt relaxed enough to function. And I remember, during 2020, not really 2020, I think 2019, actually, even before the pandemic, I had like all of that trauma that I had in my life, I had blocked out. That was the only way I could function. And the biggest tragedy that affected me in my adult life happened in 2015. I lost my daughter. She died at birth. And having a daughter had been something I wanted since I was 8 years old. And now, the first time I had children, I wasn't ready. It wasn't planned by me. It was, as we call it, what's that word that's gonna get somebody angry here? There it is, trap babies. Yeah, I know, Teresa, you don't like that, but that's what it was. Anyway, yeah, I was 46 the first time I smoked marijuana, and I never did it, you know. So by 2018, because I didn't grieve for my daughter when she died. Like, I mean, I cried a little bit. And in 2016, I had a memorial service for her at the hospital that she was born in. But I didn't really grieve. I just kept busy. I kept distracting myself from it. But by 2018, my brain was just like, this is coming out, whether you're ready for it or not. And I mean, all of these memories came back in, and they were all traumatic. And it was things that I had completely, totally forgotten about. I mean, dating back to when I was like 9 and 10 years old, and things that happened to me when I was 14 and 16, and all of these different things. And I couldn't get away from them. It's not like, there's a certain house where if you go past that house, you're going to get upset. So you avoid the house. Like, they were in my head and I couldn't escape it. And what the marijuana did for me was relaxed me. And it was able to say, listen, it happened, but you got through it. You're just feeling the emotion from that experience for the very first times. You would wake up in the middle of the night from something that happened like 30 years earlier, and you're like, whoa, but I never felt the emotions from it. All of that I had completely blocked out. And then by 2019, it reached the point where I would go to work and I would have these flashbacks at work. I couldn't smoke marijuana at work. So what I would do is I'd smoke, before I got to work. And I had a medical marijuana license, and my job had already known about my condition. So I total full disclosure with human resources, they knew. And I told them I would never do it on the job. So I would smoke like maybe 3 hours before I got to work. But the flashbacks would still come in. I'd be in the middle of talking and I'd have a flashback and completely forget what I was talking about. But then it became a situation where people could trigger me. And if they triggered me, that would offset me. But I remember I had told somebody in 2020, I understand why people become addicted to substances. You just want like a break from dealing with that pain, that emotional pain. Like I just give me like, when people, I just need 5 minutes to think, like, just leave me alone, and it's hard to do when that's in your head. You can't tell your head to shut up. You can't tell your head, knock it off. Like it doesn't work that way. But with the medical marijuana, and other people may use different things. Like I said, my uncle was an alcoholic, and I drank, but I never drank in excess to where it became a thing I needed to do on a regular basis. I didn't really like drinking because, I mean, I drank, don't get me wrong, but I never wanted to drink to get drunk because I never liked the after effects of it. That hangover in the morning, you're dehydrated, now you got diarrhea, you got a headache, your head's throbbing, your tongue feels like you got a mink fur coat on. I didn't like any of that. So, it was something, and the only thing that got me through that was, like I said, I found religion, and I had to take a look at my life. And in looking at my life, every relationship I had been in my entire life was, up to that point, was toxic. They were all toxic. Every single one was toxic. It would be me being a giver and the woman being a narcissist. There was one relationship where she was the giver and I was the narcissist. That was only once. But every time outside of, like, why do I keep running into the same type of person? And the common denominator in all those relationships was just me. And I had to own that. And then I had to figure out for me why I keep doing this. And that wasn't easy. I didn't want to do it. You see the relationships become toxic. I think I've had enough now. And then you just go off and start looking for a new one. Oh, guy feels the same exact way as I do about drinking. See, guy gets it. He understands. Like, and I've gotten drunk. I've been drunk. Don't get me wrong. My wife's sister came over and she rides a motorcycle, and she likes the ladies. Like, I love hanging out with her, but she makes this special drink. It tastes just like iced tea. You don't really taste the alcohol. So I drank that and got a nice buzz going. And I woke up the next. She had the hangover. I didn't. I honestly thought she could hold her liquor better, but she doesn't come from a long line of alcoholics like I do. So maybe that's why. I don't know. But once I started looking introspective in my life and understanding why I was doing the things that I did, it revealed, like, the sexual and physical abuse I went through as a child. And I had to come to the realization that the reason I was dating these types of women was because I had been groomed to cater to these types of women. So when you're groomed, you think that's what you like. And making that realization, the pain started easing up. Like, that was what my brain was trying to force out all along. And I used to tell my students all the time, I used to have students that would come to school and they just saw their best friend get killed with a shotgun and their, guts spill all out the night before. And I'd be like, we need to send you someplace to talk. Oh, no, I'm good, miss. I'm good. I'm good, sir. I'm good. No, like, and I would tell them, listen, you don't understand. You have to deal with that. And if you don't deal with it now, your brain has a way of putting it in front of you at the worst opportune moment. And you don't want that to happen. And unfortunately, I didn't practice what I preach, because I would go to a therapist here and there, stay for 3 or 4 sessions. I'm like, all right, I'm better. I'd move on. But that wasn't the case. It was, I was blocking it out. I moved, I searched and found myself. I got tired of being who everyone wanted and thought and found me. That was the best thing I did. It is the best thing you can do for yourself, because you're actually doing what very few good people do, and that is self-care. And so for me, I didn't want anybody to go through what I went through. So my goal was to help kids, as many as I could, prevent them from having to experience what I experienced. But at the same time, I was neglecting myself. And I'll say this all the time: when you neglect your emotional needs, you will suffer. We grow physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally. You can't neglect any of those and be a complete person. And your emotions will force themselves out, at some point in time. That's just how it is. Alcohol doesn't do that to me. I have a very high tolerance. It's actually quite scary because I know I have a potential for addiction. But you're also being self aware. So if you know that, you can better regulate yourself, which is good that you understand that, because you'll know how many have I had? 3? All right, I better stop now. It's, I can't speak for everybody's addiction, and we all have addictions for different reasons. But I think the common thread in any addiction is that there's something inside of us that we're missing, or there's something inside of us that we don't want to deal with, or we're afraid to deal with, or we're not ready to deal with, and we need to get away from it. And that's just my opinion. I've never, like I said, the worst thing I've ever been addicted to was cigarettes. I had a slight porn addiction between 2017 and 2019. I'm not going to lie. I was watching porn every day. I had never done that before in my life. Not even when I was a teenager, still trying to understand how intercourse worked. But as an adult, I was watching, I didn't realize there were different genres of porn. Like, man, jeez Louise, that blew my mind. Violet Witch, I just had a few of those weeks ago when the entire house was sick growing up. Blackberry brandy was the cure all. See, in my house, it was rock and rye. That's interesting. My problem was mom is religious, dad wasn't. Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah. Teresa Marie can't have Blackberry anything. No, you couldn't even have a Blackberry phone. Remember those? I had one. I had the Blackberry Storm. I think it came out in like 2009 or 2008. I think I got it. Oh, God. It was garbage. Man, I was so happy to turn that phone over. You wouldn't believe it. Your cough medicine as a child was made from brandy. My cough medicine as a young adult was brandy. I mean, I used to keep a bottle of Christian Brothers, like a small fifth, in my refrigerator. So anytime I got sick or feel like a cold coming on, you just mix it with tea and pour it in there, and then you sweat it out overnight, and then you do what you had to do the next day. Actually, something that when I spent time out in the streets, a guy that was homeless told me. He said, you take an onion, you cut it in half, you kind of chop it up, and then you take a half a cup of water and a teaspoon of sugar, mix it in, and then let the onion sit in there for like overnight. And then you eat the onion, and it'll sweat all of the toxins out of your body. And I tried it; it did work. You sweat it out, and it comes out, and you're sweating, and it does work. But it's not as fast as taking Theraflu or Advil or something like that. Perception was brandy, honey, and I think whiskey, 2 teaspoons, until you would sneak to my. Uh, you just reminded me of one time I went to, I think it was Applebee's restaurant, and somebody had told me this when I was younger, and I was just going to try it and see if I could get away with it. So what I would do, I would ask for a beer and they'd bring it to me on the frosted mug, and I would twist the way I poured it. So I would drink it, but it would still have this huge foamy head, and I would say it was soap. Like, this tastes like soap. Like, this isn't good. And they'd bring me another one, and then the same thing again. So I had like, well, 3 beers before I finally would settle for the last one and be like, okay, this one's good now. Yeah, thanks. And yeah, you get your free buzz. Uh, yeah, where is she? Jazz, stop being a tool, you langer. You stop it. You stop. And you just stop it. You stop it. Your ex turned you off of alcohol? Um, so was your ex one of those really disgustingly stupid drunks that would just do all kind of goofy things? And like, I used to hate those blackout drunks where people would say the most offensive or do the most disrespectful things and in the morning play victim. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I wouldn't do that. That's not who I am. And it's like, yeah, that's what you did. You messaged wifey. You know what? No, because she, Jazz, you stop it. Talk about the Zooms. You were like Flash until it kicked in. What are Zooms, Wind Whispers? I don't know what that is. But I think we're from the same state. How do you, what are Zooms? Is that a typo? Or is that real? I have no idea what that is. Zoom. Anyway, my alcohol of choice now as I've gotten older, it used to be brandy, but then when I started working at the public defender's office, it became bourbon. Don't ask how, it just shifted. And top shelf bourbon, Basil Hayden, and that costs like, I think, like $65 a bottle or something. It's actually cheaper here in the Philippines, but now because you can buy liquor in the 7-Eleven stores here, I just get a bottle of Seagram 7 and then grab some Sprite, and then I just make me 7 and 7s every now and again after dinner with an animal. Oh, like my cat and dog. Okay. Wow. Okay. 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 They can remember everything you did to them, but not what they did. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree. Violet, he was a mean drunk, blackout drunk. He was tweaking really bad. Oh, whoa. Okay. Uh, it was Southern Comfort. Southern Comfort was I guess it was too sweet for me. Don't get me wrong. I couldn't stand the taste of scotch. I don't even know how that became a thing. I think whoever invented scotch didn't have taste buds. But Southern Comfort, I don't know. Like, I would have to put water in that. That would be the only way I could drink Southern Comfort. But to take it straight, you know, it was too sweet. And then if you mix, all right, now it wasn't as sweet as peach schnapps. I couldn't stand peach schnapps. Like, don't put that near me. I'll pluck you in the back of the head. You put that near me. I'm not doing that. Sweet and smooth. Okay, it was smooth, but actually, when I would drink like sweet drinks, Long Island iced tea, that would be the one I could drink. That was actually probably Long Island iced tea is what I cut my teeth on when I started drinking. Like, I did my heaviest drinking between the ages of 19 and 24. That was, I never drank as much as I did in that time span of time. But Long Island iced tea, I could drink probably half a bottle and not feel anything. And when I was about 22, 23, I had an apartment in Center City, Philadelphia, and I was a security officer at the shopping mall in downtown. And I worked, I think my shift was 9 to 5. And when I would get off work, I had a cousin, God rest his soul, he passed away back in the 90s. He was only 25. He had a heart attack. He didn't drink, but he liked to, we liked the bar hop. And so I could drink and we could talk to girls and do that. So he was the designated driver. And I get off at 5 o'clock. I'd be home at like 5:30. It was the 90s. So he paged me. And then I'd call him back and he said, hey, you want to roll tonight? And I'd say, yeah. And then we'd go out and I'd stagger back home he dropped me off about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I get to sleep, wake up, got a hangover, go to work all day. I'm not doing that tonight. I got to go home and rest tonight. And then by 5 o'clock, I'm off work. Yay! I feel a sudden surge of energy, but I'm going home. But he'd call me at like 5:45. Hey, you want to roll tonight? Yeah, come get me. Like that would be the routine. Too sweet for me. Plus, once I get sick on something, I can't drink it again. Yeah, that's the same for me. Southern Comfort became that drink that got me so bad I couldn't drink or smell it for years. But yeah, that sounds like a Southern Comfort thing. By the time we turned 21, was done. It was no longer fun because I was allowed. Just ruined clubs and bars and drinking. So Florian's nephew turned 21 yesterday, and it made me think about what I did when I was 21. When I turned 21, my girlfriend at the time, I think we went to a restaurant and just had dinner. Like, I had been drinking for so much already, like, that big milestone where, I get to legally drink now. Who cared? I've been doing it for so long. Which reminds me, I didn't stop being carded until I was 38. Like, it used to annoy me. Like, do I look like I'm under 21? But I mean, I legitimately got carded until I was 38. And then the first time I had to go to a function for a foster care agency that was at a tavern. And it was a bunch of fresh out of college, social worker, idealistic, we're going to change the world kids there. And I think at that point, I was like late 30s, might have been 40. And they were getting carded going in, and I pulled my driver's license out. Here we go. And the guy looked at me and was like, oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead. I'm like, huh? No, I'm old. She can't. I mean, I'm young. Look. Yeah, okay. And that's when. We going to get effed up tonight. You had white friends seated. And I had plenty of white friends. I'm trying to think. Oh, no, my friend Billy, he was Irish Catholic. He was a terrible drunk. He would never know how to pace himself. Wow, Billy, I haven't thought about that in a long time. He had drank to the point that it was a bachelor party, and Billy, the dancer, the stripper hadn't even gotten there yet. I don't think we actually had our first toast yet. And Billy was drunk, passed out on the steps. And it wasn't liquor, it was beer. Like, I've never gotten drunk like that off of beer, but it was beer that got him that way. And when I was in the Army, most of the guys I drank with were white. And they hey, come here, kid. And we're going to get some stuff from the class 6. I'm like, okay. And, but they were mainly beer drinkers. I wasn't a big beer drinker. If I do drink, it's red wine or Coca-Cola and whiskey. Okay, oh, guess what? Here in the Philippines, Coca-Cola cans their soda, like you can buy a can of Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola already mixed. And that's the only way I can drink cola now is because there's no caffeine in that. So that's the only way I can get a cola taste because of my condition and the medication I take, I'm not allowed to drink caffeine anymore. So I did miss Coca-Cola. Plus, I have to be careful. Alcoholics run in my family. Mine too. I started having alcohol even when I would get it from the straws from Drunk a Day. You straw stealer. I snuck a drink at my mom's wedding. Well, a sip, actually. Coke and whiskey was my brother's drink. He called it Kool-Aid. I can say that. I could definitely see that. Like, I got a couple of cans here because guess what? The Jack Daniels and Coca Cola cans, they cost less than $1 here. I think they cost maybe equivalent of 90 cents. So you can get like 10 cans and then just I got a mini fridge in my bedroom, so that's where I keep the alcohol. My ex would drink 2 24 packs of beer and still walk. Good. Was your husband Babe Ruth? Good grief, that good gravy. Gee. All right, guys, I can smell breakfast here, so I'm about to get off. But listen, Wind Whispers is great to see. Irish Jazz, you need to. I hope you left because you needed to smoke some marijuana and you couldn't do it and talk on the phone at the same time. But anyway, say hi to Randy for me. And sis, always a pleasure having you on here. I didn't forget I'm going to play your song when we close out. Beatles CI, thank you for stopping in. That was very nice of you. I appreciate it. Again, to anybody that came to listen to the MobTube Chronicles interview, again, I apologize. I screwed up the date, but I hope to reschedule that soon. And when I do, I'll make sure everybody's aware of it. Shout out to Stand Up Guys 69. I look forward to your next live stream. Hopefully it'll be when I'm not sleeping. And it was great chatting on your channel. Oh wait, there's something right here. My brothers, you take me in the used to take me in the bars and make bets off me because you were so tiny. You'd go shot for shot and drink anyone under the table. Oh wow, that's a scary thought. I thought the same thing. Because you are tiny. Yeah, 6 feet and 200 pounds. I mean, that's relatively big, but I would think like Andre the Giant size to drink 24 packs of beer and not have an issue like that. Jeez Louise. I will. I'll tell them all you say hi. Everybody, God bless. Thank you for stopping in. Love all you guys. And I'll be back. If not sooner, I'll definitely be back next week at the same time. It seems to work for most people, so that's what we'll do. And I'm going to close this out now. Everybody take care. Oh, wait. I got one more in there. Bye, everyone. All the best. Love you guys. Have a great weekend.
A la salsa desde Córdoba. Yo no sé de poesía ni de filosofía, solo sé que tu vida yo la quiero en la mía. Yo no sé cómo hacer para no tenerte las ganas que yo tengo, cómo hacer para no quererte, yeah. Nadie como tú, no hay un sustituto para ese cuerpo tuyo que a mí ya me tiene cucu. En un rato te busco, voy y te acurruco, yeah. No hay nadie como tú, que no hay nadie como tú. No hay nadie como tú. No hay nadie como tú. Dame like como YouTube, conecta como Bluetooth. Si me da yo soy la usa y tu muñeca muy tú. Yo te quiero pa' mí. Si me dice que sí, me muero solo por ti. ¿Cómo hacer para no tenerte las ganas que yo tengo? ¿Cómo hacer para no quererte? Yeah. Nadie como tú, no hay un sustituto para ese cuerpo tuyo que a mí ya me